Well, I just sort of go with the Western Conference because Portland would have won it, I think, if Walden hadn't been hurt. But with Western playing great for Seattle right now, and David Thompson, doing a usual job for Denver. I just sort of lean that way because if Philadelphia was playing up to their potential, it would be Philadelphia all the way. So I think the Western Conference would probably decide the champions.
And now the category everybody's an expert on, the officials. A lot of complaints about the officials this year. What's your feeling on the NBA officiating?
Well, personally, if you had asked me this question last year, I would have said that, they did a terrible job because I was one of the leaders in, total fouls, in disqualification. But this year, I think they did a great job because, they be under a lot of, unusual pressures from the fans and the players and the coaches, And then again, they be, observed game out, game in. So I think the officials did a great job, despite all the adversity they had to, face. So they did a good job this year.
Really unpredictable.
Montgomery police say most times citizens, in order to protect themselves from burglars and intruders, buy bars and put them on their windows and doors with deadbolt locks. It keeps the burglars out, but the police say the residents are locked in, and in case of fire there could be problems. But theft rates in Montgomery during daylight hours while most people are at work have caused scenes like this. In this South Montgomery residential area, 17-year-old Gardner Perdue has been instrumental in helping cut down on house burglaries with a program called Neighborhood Crime Watch. What was an Eagle Scout project to Gardner now has spread to other areas of the city.
I need a service project that was worthwhile to do, and we had quite a few crimes in the neighborhood in 3 of the homes out of the 11, and we just decided that this would be a worthwhile project to try to start a crime prevention neighborhood in this neighborhood and then spread out around this block.
How much work did you put into it, and how long did it take you to develop it?
Well, the actual first meeting only took about a week, but then it's gone on for, about probably 2.5 months now.
How do you feel about the results of your work?
It's great. We haven't had any problems since we actually started the crime prevention in the neighborhood.
On the direction of the Montgomery Crime Prevention Bureau, the program is expected to make the city difficult for house burglaries. Detective E.R. Crew Jr. says the situation demanded that something be done to cut down on the break-ins.
We have an increasing amount of burglaries, anywhere from 13 to 15% ahead of last year, where we had about 3,000 burglaries. We find an alarming amount of home burglaries that are broken in during the daytime. We have begun working the Neighborhood Watch program in several neighborhoods such as this, just this year.
Mr. Calhoun, what has been the success rate of the program?
We've been tremendously successful in the Neighborhood Watch program, Norman. For instance, in this area, there's been no crime since the advent of the Neighborhood Watch program, and also in the Cloverdale area.
How does this program work?
It's a self-help program, neighbors watching after other neighbors.
Crime prevention officials said this program was set up to prevent citizens from coming home from work to find that some priceless item they had worked hard to pay for had been stolen by some unknown person. And so far, they say, it has been successful. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
our Supreme Court of India ruled that to treat unequals equally is itself a breach of the right to equality. But to treat unequals unequally is to give effect to the right to equality. For example, if you have 10% average rate of tax imposed upon a poor man, and you have 70% rate of tax imposed upon a rich man, it does mean, ostensibly it looks as if it is a breach of the equality clause, but it is not. Because to treat the rich man on the same footing as the poor man and ask each of them to pay the same rate of tax would really be a violation of the right to equality before the law. This is a homely but a good example of how you have to treat unequals unequally in order to have equality before the law.
One of the problems, as I understand it, in your country has been the population upswing. What, in your opinion, will be the philosophy of your government as it relates to the growth in population in India?
We do have family control and family planning as the top priority, one of the top priorities of our government. But we do it on the voluntary basis. We do not compel anyone to undergo vasectomy or sterilization. There is no outrage on the human body. Human beings are not treated as if they were cattle. We recognize the worth and dignity of the human person. Therefore, although we have programs of education, training, motivation, in order to induce people to control the size of their families, we leave it to their good sense in the last analysis, and we do not compel anyone to undergo any kind of operation or surgery.
Well, we've gone a lot further than a lot of people thought we could, Dan. We thought we'd have a good baseball team. We've had excellent pitching. We've hit the ball in the clutch, and we're just tickled to death to be going to the semifinals this week.
What about this game? The team execute pretty much the way you would want them to?
I think they played flawlessly on defense. David White had a super day, gave up 3 or 4 hits. Hueytown scored in the last inning. Hueytown has an awfully good hitting ball club, probably the best hitting ball club we played this year. So that's a tribute to David to pitch as well as he did. And fortunately, we hit the ball in the clutch. Eddie Cox gave us a home run and early in the ball game, gave us a lead that we never gave up, and that kept us out front and helped things a lot.
Hey, what about the rest of the pitching outside of Wyatt? Is he going to be able to go the whole way through the state tournament?
Well, we play somebody out of Mobile or Dothan Friday. That'll be one ball game. David can't pitch then. We'll probably go with Steve Hamner or Jason Maddox, who Steve's won 3 ball games for us this year, and Jason's undefeated. And we would hope that David would be able to come back on Saturday on the second ball game.
Well, I feel real well. You know, I'm looking forward to going to Tampa. I think I can really, you know, help the team.
How close are you to signing with him?
Well, I just have to take things as they come. I hadn't been down there to, you know, see the players or nothing. We haven't started anything about negotiation yet. You know.
How about this little gathering tonight? Pretty big thrill to be honored in front of all these people?
Oh, man, it's a great feeling, you know, to come home and, you know, and get the feeling that people really care for you, as the people in Montgomery have showed me today, you know, because that's the type of feeling you can't really, it's hard to describe, but it's a great feeling deep down within.
You had a pretty good speech there. Were you nervous during that speech?
I was kind of nervous, but I was just saying what, you know, I really felt.
The 13-page report outlined a 24-month study of the possibilities of consolidating Montgomery's city and county governments. The report said the area will eventually consolidate in one form or another, and that no committee member voted against the idea. 7 voted for full consolidation. 4 chose partial joining of the governments. Here are 2 views. Committee member Robert Nesbitt wants full consolidation. Member Max Strickland says partial consolidation is sufficient.
Well, in my vote on total consolidation, after hearing and analyzing the situations from the various cities, representatives of the cities, from the cities we brought in, and hearing the successfulness of it, and then thinking in terms of the agencies that in the city of Montgomery that there is a dual situation. I felt that in order to bring all of it under one umbrella, total consolidation would be the most effective.
Well, I voted for partial consolidation, Norman. I believe that in the area of our jails that there should be some consolidation. Other than that, I believe, and it's my feeling, that a move of this type would move government further away from the rural resident, and I'm a strong believer in keeping the government as close to the people as you possibly can. Also, the farmer is pretty well governed by regulations now, and we feel like this would bring on additional regulations that would be, we feel, harmful to the farmer.
The 12-member committee heard from representatives of planning boards, county and city governments, and from those opposed and who support consolidation during their 2-year study. Commission Chairman Richard Arrington says the governments are already partially merged.
Well, I think it's obvious, Norman, that from our studies that the areas that have consolidated, it has resulted in more services to more people, more and better services. In few cases has it actually resulted in any economy, but more services to more people, and that's what people want.
How far away do you think the implementation of a partial or full consolidation plan is?
Well, you've got to recognize first, Norman, that we are partially consolidated. We have more consolidated departments in Montgomery than any city that we've studied had prior to consolidation. So partial consolidation is here. And I imagine before full consolidation can be implemented, that other areas will be consolidated, other departments.
We were told today by Consolidation Commission Chairman Richard Arrington that if consolidation does come to this area, it could take up to 8 years from the time the county and city governments study the final report. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News, City Hall.
The term supersaturated was being used 2 weeks ago for Alabama soil, and with the hard rain since, cropland continues to hold more water than is needed. Rain continues to delay field work on most crops. Extension Service county agents reported surplus soil moisture before rain was forecast for this weekend. State Crop and Livestock Reporting Service figures show low temperatures have prevented germination of cotton seed in many fields. Considerable replanting may be necessary on some cotton farms. Cotton planting has progressed only to 61% of expected acreage. 70% of Alabama corn is in the ground, slightly ahead of last year at this time, and although stands are listed as fair to good, growth has been slowed by bad weather. Some corn fields have been flooded and lost by rising river water. Soybean planting has begun between rains with 8% in the ground. Peanut planting is reported slow with only 37% completed. Two bright spots are hay, which is ready to cut in some fields and is listed as adequate for grazing statewide, and peaches, which are reported doing well in Chilton County. The weather has been great for peaches, say the experts, with a big crop expected in the next weeks. Dick Bird, WSFA TV News, reporting.
Well, you know, about 3 weeks before the draft, I kind of had an indication that I might end up at Cleveland, you know. But I feel pretty good because, you know, Paul Warfield has retired and they looking for somebody to come in. I don't think I'm no Paul Warfield, but I will be Ozzie Newsome up in Cleveland next year.
Hey, now with the draft, everybody talking about that and everything, has there been a problem back at school with studies and everything else?
Yeah, it was presenting a real big problem. You know, coaches kept coming around and they wanted you to come up and see their camp and everything and take physical and everything. It was really, you know, real hard, but we got through with it, and we're going to be graduating this Sunday, so it's worked out for the best.
Well, you know, as you know, Bob is probably one of the finest NBA centers of all time. You know, like, and there's no one in the league, I think, you know, over 6'5" that can outshoot the guy, you know, from 20 feet out. So But I just want to like try to, you know, get into a situation where I can play more because without the playing time, you know, regardless of how much potential you have, you know, you can't become the player that they expect of you. So, like, I just want to be in a situation where I can play more or play a lot, you know. Either, you know, whether or not it be at the forward position or the center position. I just want to have the opportunity to play.
This weekend, they announced the winners. The women the Rams have chosen to be their cheerleaders, their sun dancers.
Miss Irma Rawweiler.
They announced 29 winners, plus one. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rams Sun Dancers. 29 beautiful young women and Phyllis Wanger. Jack Perkins, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Well, in the beginning, Alabama don't produce any more than half of the pork that we consume in the state. And the wiregrass has a climate and everything is ideal for production of hogs, and we have peanut program is expected to phase out in the next few years, a curtail production of peanuts. We're overproducing peanuts, and it looked like to me that hogs would be an ideal vehicle to take up some of that slack in production of peanuts.
Right, they are. Our packers in the wiregrass at this time tell us that they are at present importing 40% of the pork that they are killing, and that they could easily double production. Well, we're talking about in the neighborhood, of course, if we go from 500,000 head to 1 million head, we're talking about in the neighborhood of $44 million. And of course, as you know, our economists tell us that for every dollar that is produced, we'll have $3 generated. So we're talking about in the neighborhood of $132 million being generated by the increased swine production in the wiregrass.
The 101st Screaming Eagles, as well as most other airborne divisions, have gone through months of rigorous training to prepare for a situation such as that currently unfolding in Zaire. Last October, one such division participated in a tedious rescue exercise at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and WSFA TV watched. The situation was this: a dozen American civilians were being held captive by an unfriendly nation, fictitiously called Enola, which had broken diplomatic relations with the United States. The troopers' mission was to rescue the Americans from a crude POW camp alive. The element of surprise was the most important of the entire exercise. As fighter planes flew overhead to provide air support, the troops arrived in low-flying helicopters surrounding the camp. The soldiers immediately met up with return gunfire, and the enemy casualties were numerous. But by the time the dust had cleared, all 12 American civilians were free and alive, as were the members of the strike force. The exercise was called a complete success. There's still a lot of confusion as to what kind of rescue would be made in Zaire, if indeed one must be made. But if it is necessary, defense officials say they are confident the Airborne Division is well trained to handle such an evacuation. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News, reporting.
My explanation was that publicly I decided I did not want to run.
That is the only reason Governor George Wallace would give reporters for his surprise decision last night to pull out of the U.S. Senate race.
I said that I had reasons known to myself. I owe the people of Alabama and of the country very much. But I do not feel that I'm letting them down by not going into every implicit detail of why I'm not running.
Did his health contribute to his decision? No. Did he have enough money to conduct a campaign? Yes. Wallace says he's confident had he stayed in the race, he would have won, but he just didn't want to stay in. State law prevents him from seeking another term as governor.
Does this mean you're out of politics for good, or are you just...
Oh, I didn't say that I was retiring necessarily from politics, and I didn't say that I wasn't. I said that I was not going to run for the United States Senate.
That decision came so suddenly that the only paid staffer on the Wallace for Senate campaign says he found out on the 10 o'clock news.
Well, I think everybody in the administration was very surprised at this. I think this decision was made last night of the governor making his own decision, and I think he just made it really at a spur-of-the-moment decision.
The Wallace decision was the talk of Alabama today. The man who was one of the principal national political figures of the 60s and who had dominated Alabama politics for more than 15 years was suddenly quitting the race.
Now, I was surprised. And I believe if he ran, he would have won.
I just think he's had a nice term as governor for a long time, and I think maybe it's the best thing for him to take a rest.
As for the future, Governor Wallace says he doesn't know what he'll do when his term expires next January. Sam Ford, CBS News, Montgomery.
Here we go.
Good.
All right.
Pulling around. The whole thing should take about 2 minutes to fall over. About there.
Very nice. Here we come up to the first ramp.
All right. 2 ramps at
Two
once.
ramps simultaneously.
Okay.
Beautiful.
This will take 2 minutes. The 100,000 should take 35 minutes to fall over, so be a lot of work involved.
All right, now we're coming up the NBC logo.
Right. This is pretty nice in different directions.
Hey! That's incredible. There's no way to test this either, is there? You just do it once.
Just from experience, that's about it, and the rest is all, could stop.
Nice
anywhere.
rhythm, isn't it?
Here goes a slow motion ramp. Watch this. Up the ramp and into the glass of water.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So Robbie Craig domino.
Now we're coming around to one of
these. There's a Bahama Tom inverted cascade slide for life. It slides down. Here we go.
That is weird.
Slid down a thing, started the chain down the floor.
That is sensational.
And, see how we're doing here? The next thing is just a clover leaf. It just splits out into 4 little spirals out, like the Santa Monica Freeway or whatever.
It's lost and cut off.
It's lost and cut off.
Here we go.
All right. And American flag. This is my favorite one of the things on the floor
Watch
here.
the flag. It's going to look like it's waving because you're going to have different rows going at different times. Yeah! Oh,
Very nice. Look at the little spirals.
They're little. Now here we're coming up to the ramp. Looks like a parking
vertical
garage.
spiral ramp. They seem to accelerate on the way up because of the way it's designed, and they seem to go faster on the way up.
Didn't miss a one.
Right. Continuing down the back, here comes the grand finale ending with the Tarzan swing. There goes across that ramp into the elevator. Yeah!
Mousetraps over there.
The mousetrap at the end.
Boom, 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 boom.
present time, we are providing an educational opportunity for over 4,000 students. These students are pursuing some type of an educational program. A little over 1,000 of them are pursuing graduate level work. We have about 500 people on the payroll, both part-time and full-time, about 250 full-time, 250 part-time. And although we get an appropriation from the state, which amounts to about $5 million a year, our budget is close to $12 million. And of course, there are reasons for this. We collect fees, a little over $1 million in fees. We have auxiliary enterprises, contracts and grants. Our Center for Business and Economic Development tells us that every AUM dollar turns over 2.36 times in this community. So we think we are beginning to have some economic impact on this community. In fact, between 1972 and 1975, 3 years, the total economic impact of AUM on the community was $69 million.
What was filed today was a writ of mandamus, a petition seeking an order from the Court of Criminal Appeals directing the trial court to dismiss all indictments against Mrs. Allen. This latest legal move is based on the separation of powers doctrine, questioning the legislature's right to control or supervise the activities of an equal arm of state government.
The petition says that under those circumstances, the legislature cannot impose a code of conduct or other restrictions upon the performance in office of the state treasurer as an equal constitutional officer. That being the case, the petition says that the trial court has no jurisdiction to hear it, since no offense is stated in the indictment.
The writ is apparently a last effort. Attorney Fuller believes that the Court of Criminal Appeals will rule in favor of Mrs. Allen. If not, then it's on to a regular trial. From the State Court of Criminal Appeals, Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News.
I think the rest of the Kiwanis would like to know that. Well, let me say to the audience, the group today, I am delighted to have been invited to come to your luncheon. And I would suggest there'll be other changes ahead, minor in nature, refinements, as we find better ways to do the job that we're tasked to do. But the bottom line that I would like to leave with you, and the thought, and the one which is certainly most important, perhaps, to the city of Montgomery, is that Air University will continue to be a stable part of your community. Montgomery, of course, as you all know, has a reputation as being one of the best military towns in the United States. Montgomery and San Antonio, I think, are two that enjoy that reputation. So it is a real pleasure for me to be joined with both cities, if you will, living in San Antonio and now joining with you people here. I know there's been some apprehension in the community about the impact of Air University's joining Air Training Command, and I understand that. On the surface, it might tend to connotate or indicate a decreasing stature and perhaps a weakened position within the Air Force for the functions being done here. But I want to assure this group, as I have other people I've had a chance to talk to, that that's absolutely untrue. This move in no way reduces either the role of Air University or the importance placed on professional military education by the Air Force. And I would underline that comment. Nor does it threaten the permanence of the bases here in your city. I think I should say that to this group. We continue to need leadership, and the future leaders will continue to need the professional development being provided here at Air University. And I would suggest that as for permanence, I think the campus that you can see at Maxwell sort of speaks for itself with regard to whether or not this is a permanent installation.
Well, in the beginning, Alabama don't produce any more than half of the pork that we consume in the state, and the wiregrass has a climate and everything is ideal for production of hogs, and we have peanut program is expected to phase out in the next few years or curtail production of peanuts. We're overproducing peanuts, and it looked like to me that hogs would be an ideal vehicle to take up some of that slack in production of peanuts.
Right, they are. Our packers in the wiregrass at this time tell us that they are at present importing 40% of the pork that they are killing, and that they could easily